Veni Vidi Vici. This is how you can describe Erling Haaland's first season in the Premier League. Not only did the young Norwegian score more than anybody else, he also smashed the all-time record for goals in the Premier League era. He scored 36 goals in 35 games. It's a crazy number by itself, but even more so if you consider the legends of the game that Haaland overtook. In this video, we recall the most prolific seasons by footballers in the Premier League era before Erling Haaland. Kevin Phillips is not a name that comes to mind when you talk about great Premier League strikers. In fact, this may not be a name so easily recognized by average football fans, but whatever they fed him in the season 1999-2000, he digested it so well. He scored 30 goals for a Sunderland side that didn't even qualify for Europe, finishing 7th. There are several reasons why Phillips isn't known much better. First, he never replicated his form. He only scored as many in the 3 following seasons combined. Second, he failed with England. In his 8 caps, he didn't even score once. And finally, he never moved to a top club even at the peak of his powers. Asked why he never played for a top team, Phillips once said, "You tell me. There were some fantastic strikers around, so perhaps that was the reason. Playing at one of the top 4 teams would have been amazing, especially Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal fan." Unlike Kevin Phillips, Thierry Henry is a household name. He was so prolific in his prime that he won the Golden Boot 4 times, the most in the Premier League history. His most fruitful spell came in the 2003-2004 season when he scored 30 goals and Arsenal won the league without a single defeat. And in all competitions, Henry finished the season with 39 goals and 15 assists. To this day, many football fans are wondering how come Thierry Henry didn't win the Ballon d'Or. Those numbers would be fantastic for any player now, and 20 years ago they were simply ridiculous. A common theory is that Pavel Nedved and Andriy Shevchenko reached or won the Champions League final. Meanwhile, Arsenal didn't perform in Europe as well as domestically, even if Henry scored more than Nedved and Shevchenko combined. Robin van Persie was unstoppable in his last season at Arsenal. He won the Golden Boot by scoring 30 amazing goals in the 2011-2012 season. But curiously, this isn't even the campaign everybody best remembers him for. In the summer of 2012, after 8 years at Arsenal, Van Persie made every Arsenal fan hate him. He refused to sign a new contract and joined rivals Man United. To rub salt in the wound, he said those famous words, "I always listen to the little boy inside of me." That boy was screaming for Man United. From my side, and Arsenal as well, there are no hard feelings. That is life. And in his first season at Old Trafford, Van Persie scored just 26 league goals for Man United, almost single-handedly won them the Premier League, claimed his second and last Golden Boot, and became a United legend. The little boy inside got what he wanted. Harry Kane is forever chasing personal records as his club is barely ever chasing trophies. The only reason he didn't win the Golden Boot last season was Erling Haaland. Kane scored 30 goals in a self-imploding Spurs side. In any other season, a striker with 30 goals would be all across the news. But that's the standard Haaland set that we don't even talk about Kane as much. As luck would have it, Harry Kane also scored 30 in the 2017-2018 campaign, but again conceded the Golden Boot, that time to Mo Salah. Superhuman efforts from Salah and Haaland are the only reasons why Kane has 3 Golden Boots instead of 5. If it's any consolation, Kane has every chance to beat the all-time record for the number of goals in the Premier League. He needs 47 goals more to equal Alan Shearer's 260. At this rate, it would take Kane another 2 or 3 top campaigns. Alan Shearer was an absolute goal machine. He could be another Man United legend banging in goals alongside other greats, but he chose different paths. Despite interest from Sir Alex Ferguson, he moved to Blackburn Rovers. The injury impeded his first campaign, but in the following 1993-94 season, he scored a massive 31 goals but didn't win the Golden Boot. That was because a certain Newcastle striker scored more. It must be noted that the Premier League had 22 teams until the 1995-96 campaign. So when Shearer equaled his 31 goals 2 seasons later, the league had 20 teams competing instead of 22. He did win the Golden Boot that time, but his team only finished 7th. He scored more Premier League goals alone than his teammates combined. Alan Shearer did have one campaign when he won the league and the Golden Boot, but more on this later. Cristiano Ronaldo in his first Man United spell has this reputation for being a silky player, a dribbler, an entertainer. But one United campaign was a preview for things to come at Real Madrid, where he would bump up his goal-scoring output. In the 2007-2008 season, Ronaldo scored 31 Premier League goals, winning the Golden Boot and the Premier League title. He also claimed the Champions League and the Ballon d'Or that year. To this day, this may be the finest Premier League season by a single player. Real Madrid was all over him and Ronaldo was pushing for the exit. Sir Alex convinced the Portuguese to stay for one more year, in which he only scored 18 Premier League goals. He did help United to a domestic double and the Champions League final. Luis Suarez was one of the good things about Liverpool's dark ages at the beginning of 2010s. He didn't get off to a flying start though. He scored 4 in the half a year following the transfer from Ajax and 11 the season later. But then his goal-scoring output increased and culminated in 31 goals in the 2013-14 campaign, which saw him claim the Golden Boot. Sadly, his goals didn't get Liverpool any trophies, and at the end of the season, Suarez moved to Barcelona. We'll never know what could have been if Suarez hadn't missed the first 5 games of the campaign. He served an 8-game suspension for alleged racism towards Patrice Evra, and the suspension carried over from the previous campaign. Mohamed Salah is another player whose most prolific individual season saw his team win nothing. He scored 32 Premier League goals in his debut 2017-18 campaign, winning only the Golden Boot. He scored 44 in all competitions, but his Liverpool barely made the top 4 and lost the Champions League final to Real Madrid. But unlike Harry Kane and Alan Shearer, Mo Salah won a lot of trophies in the end. In fact, he's won every trophy so far at Liverpool. For example, he only scored 27 in all competitions a year after that glorious campaign, but one of those was the winning goal in the Champions League final. So, nothing to have regrets about. Andy Cole is best remembered as a Man United player. However, his most prolific season came at Newcastle. Cole joined them in 1993 when Newcastle was still playing in Division 1, the equivalent of today's Championship. Newcastle got promoted, and in the very first season in the Premier League, the 22-year-old Cole scored 34 goals, winning the Golden Boot. Newcastle came third, which was a massive success for the newly promoted team. Is this a surprise that halfway through the following season, Man United poached him from Newcastle for £6 million? Cole went on to claim many trophies, but he was never as prolific as that one season at Newcastle. In fact, he only ever scored 20-plus goals once in all of the remainder of his career. He was still a fantastic player and formed a deadly partnership alongside Dwight Yorke, which culminated in the treble-winning 1998-99 campaign. Alan Shearer's best individual campaign saw him score 34 goals, win the Golden Boot, and the Premier League with Blackburn Rovers. You may look at Blackburn as surprise champions, but they actually spent a lot of money to beat Man United to the league title. Shearer wasn't one of the new players, but his teammate Chris Sutton was. The two formed a strong partnership, nicknamed the Sauce, meaning Shearer and Sutton. Shearer was never as prolific as that season, but he kept scoring a lot of goals for Blackburn and then Newcastle, which made him the all-time top scorer in the Premier League with 260 goals. He is one of the most consistent goal scorers of the Premier League era, and it's not a surprise he was the first inductee into the Premier League Hall of Fame. As you can see, scoring the most goals doesn't guarantee trophies for your team. This only makes Erling Haaland's achievement even more impressive. But still, all the players in the video are absolute legends of the Premier League and only deserve recognition. If you liked this video, like and subscribe, and go to our website tribuna.com for more stuff like this, and also for all the key news from top football.